Ini karena beliau sudah hadir, kita langsung.
The Honorable Mrs. Sri Mulyani, please come to the stage to give speech to all of us.
Nanti setelah sambutan disambung nyanyi, Bu.
The Honorable Mrs. Sri Mulyani, please come to the stage to give speech to all of us. I think it is a surprise from Indonesian Accountant Association or IAE that is a happiness and enjoyable event for us. The Prime Minister and seems like the only candidate for Congress right now. But if you look at the background behind full of Sustainable Development Goals or the SDG, so maybe accountants in Indonesia want to convey that we don't only look at the balances and income statements. We also care about the world ideals to create a better world through 17 indicators. This is great for IAE. Please give applause for IAE. So if I talk about accountants and accountability, maybe I don't need to talk about it tonight. But maybe if you want to talk a little lightly but seriously, yesterday Mr. President gave us homework. For the journey of the Republic Indonesia today, we have achieved a lot in the context of 20 years of reform, right? This is 2018. If you can say 20 years, if the age of the child is 20 years old, so she is an adult. She can determine her own direction if our reforms from 1998 to 2018, we have achieved quite a lot too. Starting from the law on state finances, the treasury law, the law on Supreme Audit Board of the Republic of Indonesia or OJK, the law on the Financial Service Authority, the law on government accountability, the law on the financial crisis, which may be a foundation for financial governance in Indonesia. In the reform era, whose spirit is more open to transparency, accountability, and our journey. The conclusion is also because we start with a balances from no existent to existent in the system of Republik Indonesia. The Republic of Indonesia, IIE, is 61 years old. In the Republic of Indonesia in 2005, the Minister of Finance, me as Sri Mulyani, witnessed it by change. Being the Minister of Finance, I continue to observe the finance law, so what used to be accounting class was not my favorite. I had to eat every day. That's called balances, a disclaimer of course, and a lot of incomplete assets but a complete liability, because those who owe us have the record. So the definition of equity is not clear. Many people sitting in this room contribute a lot to the journey of the balances sheet of the Republic Indonesia. I should have asked IAI to save it because it's a historical episode. And it is the main core of the accounting profession, even though it is government accounting. From balances that does not exist to exist. And then with disclaimer to become WDP and then become WTP is a long journey. Waiting for my WTP to come back to Indonesia again. I guess you are the one who started it. You are the one who chooses, and hopefully it will continue like that. In this context, we now have at least the foundation of legislation and governance. And then what is called good governance practice? The case that for every year, the result may not match our maximum expectation, but at least the foundation of Republic Indonesia have been established and have been implemented. Here in this room may include Mr. Hakinus Manau for the first time, Mr. Sonil who is also here, and Mr. Deputy Minister who is the enforcer. I say I returned to Indonesia to accept the position as Minister of Finance. The difference between the Minister of Finance in the past was that I did not have a Deputy Minister. And in the second 18 months, I held the position as Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy at the time. Now I go home. I am the same Minister of Finance, but I have a Deputy Minister, and the Deputy Minister is a big professor of accounting and the chairman of the Indonesian Accountant Association. So I can easily say that I don't need to delay any longer, and I can accept that if our financial statements are not WTP, it is the Deputy Minister jobs. I don't know what the president has assigned before. What I do as a minister is the deputy minister jobs is to make sure that this is a WTP and all networks as professor and Indonesian Association get WTP without compromising equality. Still have to be accountable, so it is an extraordinary journey if we have started to have an extraordinary. I said I returned to Indonesia to accept the position of Minister of Finance. The differences between the Minister of Finance in the past was that I did not have a deputy minister. And in the second 18 months, I held the position as Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister for the Economy. Now I go home. I'm the same Minister of Finance, but I have a Deputy Minister, and the Deputy Minister is a big professor of accounting and the chairman of the Indonesian Accountant Association. So I can easily say that I don't need to delay any longer, and I can accept that if our financial statements are not WTP, it's the deputy minister job. I don't know what the president has assigned. What I do as a minister is the deputy minister jobs is to make sure that there is a WTP and all networks as professor and IAI get WTP without compromising quality. Still have to be accountable. So it is an extraordinary journey if we have started to have an extraordinary foundation that not all countries in the world have like this. When I became the CEO of World Bank, I went to more than 80 countries in the world. And for the first time, I always asked whether the country had the balances of that country and had a financial statement or not. Then I went to Jamaica, and they were just about to start creating a single treasury account. I can be very detailed talking about what we are doing. Time we talk about tracking assets and accounting for assets, I can tell a lot. How the Ministry of relatively young institutions that are very difficult to resist. How can we then finally create? It was an extremely useful experiences. It is also rare because not all want 192 countries in the world have experienced and achieved what we have achieved. Sometimes we forget to take it for granted, like Indonesia is just comedy material. And how, when I was told how become the law on the state treasury and finance asks us to make financial report that accrual, I just didn't understand. And it turns out that the implication is extraordinary until we ask for or delay because it is too ambitious. He thought in less than 5 years the Republic of Indonesia would be ready from no balances, no financial statement to have balances and suddenly want to accrue. It is extraordinary. This is what I consider a remarkable achievement, and this is the core of accounting. My friend at Indonesian Accountant Association should be able to be a spokesperson regarding this. IAI is one of the professional associations that can tell authoritatively how this is an extraordinary and not easy journey. I still remember when I first became finance minister, I came to the Indonesian Accountant Association office, and at that time, we were discussing the government still facing the WBPN, and assets that were still built, but many of them were not fileable. It was an extraordinary episode for Indonesia if you talk about accountability, financial pricing, and all those things. The first thing that we try to create then, the legacy problem, which then makes Indonesia relatively normal, but doesn't mean that is make us complacent. So we have to be careful and we take care. Therefore, I want to celebrate the 61 IAI. We have an element of celebration that is appropriate for the various achievements that we get. But don't forget that we have a lot of work to do, as the President has said before. If we want to become a accountable country with good governances, it does not mean that it has to be complicated and high cost. I think this is what I would expect if Professor Madiasmo will be the chairman of Indonesian Accountant Association again. That is what must be done. Don't confuse people with village accounting standard, ultra small business accounting standard, Sharia medium business accounting standard, etc. Indonesian Accountant Association must be able to educate all stakeholders. What the President said yesterday is the task for Indonesian Association and for the chairman who will be elected tomorrow. Second, we are faced with a world where technology is now something that exists and will continue to change a lot of our life. It is included in the concept of accountability because if we talk about digital technology, where everything is a digital footprint, it is easy to capture. The concept of recording and then reporting, analytical and accountability should also change. That's why no wonder one of them said that the profession threatened by artificial intelligences was accountant. Because the data is recorded automatically, they're reported in a format that can be analyzed by artificial intelligences. So the question is, in the context that is technology is present and will continue to change, what is the future of governance and accountability? The concept of governance and accountability, because it is called disruption. Because technology is a business process and business model. If the business process and business model are disrupted, What does it mean in terms of the concept of accountability? Because the president is now emphasizing we need to build human resources through a lot of training. Don't let us training so many new accountants that they become assess. So it's a very serious task for us. And of course, this is something that I also hope will be one of the factors or the driving force of change. There is absolutely no one in our finance ministry who is very familiar with this change. Our time with the state treasury finance law, and then we recognize the Directorate General of the Treasury which was affected by the disruption first. In the past, the Treasury was the love of the government in receiving and paying. Then we shifted from bank to bank so that the Directorate General of Treasury already has an information system using SPAN or SPAN and MPN from 15,000 to only 7,000 now. That disruption is something that has happened and has happened in the Ministry of Finance. We hope that in the future, the Ministry of Finance will also continue to change with this technology. And we keep trying to discuss and figure out what it means. From this point of view, I might hope that IAI can become our partner, a reliable partner, and an intellectual partner, so that we can also think about where Indonesia is going in the future and what we need to design. Maybe the last one I actually can take a long time, but earlier I asked for it to be fast. Earlier, we talked about the SDGs. Basically, fiscal policy is an instrument to achieve the goals of the state. Accountant and accounting are instruments to achieve goals. So often in the phenomenon of the Republic Indonesia, the instrument is used as the goal of public debate to be wrong. There is an obsession with balances or an obsession with part of balances. We also need to get involved in public confusion. Those in this room should be included, those who can explain to public, don't confuse the instrument with their objectives. So if we use the state budget to achieve the goal of the state, prosperity and justice, the dignity of the republic will follow the goal. It is not that he dictates the same goal as before. Accounting and accountant is our instrument to regulate governance, both from the goal of creating accountability so that the main goals of the organization or country are achieved. In this context, I appreciate the excellent cooperation with our internal auditors, Mr. Adan, BPKB, and also our external auditors, Mr. Moore, under the BPK, who always seems to have at least the same spirit now. I feel a very good and constructive relationship with this agency or institution. And this is something I appreciate, and a good relationship is not due to collusion, nepotism, or corruption, which is very different. I felt a professional relationship in many discussions when Mr. Moore took this. If you didn't know, it could be a disclaimer because this is a significant charity. What is the problem with the institution? Did the BPK tell you? Because they want the good Republic of Indonesia, not part of blackmailing. I feel very comfortable and feel that someone is taking care of us. Then if I face something like now at BPJS Kesehatan, I have an internal BPKP auditor. So the Minister of Finance as the new state treasurer, now I feel occupied. I have a deputy minister who is a professor. I have an internal auditor, Mr. Adan, who we can always ask to see professionally. I can trust the integrity and our competence issues will always continue to improve. But that's not a compromise, and I have a BPK who is now also extraordinary as an independent, still external auditor, but accurately conveys to us what we need to improve. This is the best setting that I can feel. I say thank you. Hopefully, with this, we will be able to achieve good goals, including the SDGs. Which mean I feel a lot of help that the resources in this republic, whether it's Republic Indonesia assets or Indonesia cash flow, will continue to strive to improve. Even though when I returned to being the Minister of Finance, there were reports of operating income and operating expenses. If we don't say that we are only satisfied with the BTP, but our balance sheet structure also need to be improved. Our financial statement need to be improved. I'm gradually become as sophisticated as an accountant. What we do is extraordinary, and that's what I suddenly fell in love with accounting. I was already old. When I was young, I was confused because Mr. Paul was told to balance things wrong. So now I've fallen in love with accounting, yes, because it is something that hassling. This is then allow us to better track where the resources goes. In accounting, there is no room for us to lie or cheating. The theory should be like that, but various cases happen, so please don't do things like that for the Indonesian Accountant Association. Maintain the integrity and the professionalism, because the tools themselves are tools to improve good governance and good accountability. That's what I say to cheer you all up. I'm sorry if I disrupted the entertainment tonight. I hope Indonesian Accountant Association continues to be one of the pillars of good governance in the Republic of Indonesia and can truly be a guard for the Republic of Indonesia to move forward step by step for the sake of we achieve the goal of a just prosperous, dignified Republic of Indonesia. Live for the Indonesia.
Untuk itu kami mohon dengan hormat Prof. Murma dan juga Prof. Mardiasmo untuk berkenan ke atas panggung menyerahkan penghargaan berupa token yang akan disilakan oleh Prof. Murma. Ini dia. Tepuk tangan paling meriah untuk Ibu Sri Mulyani Indrawati. Sambutannya tadi yang luar biasa. Selanjutnya adalah penyerahan buku dengan judul Meneguhkan Kejayaan Akuntan Profesional. Ini dia Prof. Mardiasmo menyerahkan kepada Ibu Sri Mulyani.